Hi, I'm Amanda Lamond. I'm the founder of Awakening Lawyers. I have created a program for you, a self-study program called Lawyering from the Seat of the Soul. It has been a dream of mine to create this program for several years, but it's only this year, 2022, that I have finally found the courage to just go ahead and do it. It's a privilege to be alive right now. We are living through the most momentous period in human civilization, which is known as the Great Awakening. But you're unlikely to hear about the Great Awakening only if you follow mainstream news channels. It is a spiritual awakening, and there are four main beliefs that people are waking up to. The first is that the reality we experience in the third dimensional world is a direct reflection or outpicturing of our interior worlds. This realization that the world is created through collective consciousness and the responsibility on us it places. The second belief is that we're not mere mortals, but we are in fact divine beings made in the image of the Creator or Source or the All That Is, and as such we are endowed with creative powers, which we have barely scratched the surface of in terms of what we can create. Thirdly, we've been programmed by a dysfunctional and dystopian society, which has had us fearing each other for centuries and living disconnected from humanity as a whole and living disconnected from planet Earth. And finally, number four, we are realizing that to restore equilibrium on the planet, we are required to create new systems that are aligned with universal law, and these can only be created from the inside out. It's only by finding peace within that we can create peace without. There are lawyers who are aware that they are being called at this time to make sense of their lives and their lives in the law. There is the sense that there must be more to practicing law than what we have been taught, which is generally to foment the aggression and disagreement and the conflict, or to side with our clients in terms of the conflict that they have created. As awakening lawyers, we start realizing that clients create conflict. All conflict is created for our evolution. It is bringing things to the light so that we can heal them. So anything that we are not at peace with inside ourselves is going to arise in the forms of a conflict, which then needs to be solved. And once we realize this, we are then able to help our clients in a new way, because we realize that this conflict has arisen for their own evolution, and the resolution can only come from inside. So it's a fundamental shift in how we approach lawyering, and it requires of us a shift in what we think. So once we realize that we are creating our own realities, and that we create them generally from our subconscious programming, it changes how we are going to show up with our clients. There may still be a part of lawyering what we have to do, which is transactional and fixing things in the outside world for the client, getting them the order, the protection order, creating documents, etc. But our relationship with the client changes, because now we become super interested in their internal world and why they have created this particular situation, and how by shifting what's happening in the interior, we can shift what is going on in their lives. It is essential to work in this way that we understand the powers of creation. So a good part of this course is teaching you how you are the predominant creative force in your own life. I have woven together in this course probably the last 20 years of my experience. I talk about books that I have found helpful, experiences that I have had, and then I talk about some theoretical things like understanding the universal laws and the principles of creation. These are to help you in terms of understanding your client's situation, but also your own, because if we're unable to do this work ourselves, we can't help clients. Then we find ourselves in the position of what they call the wounded healer, where our own, that's my dog sneezing, then we find ourselves creating from an unconscious place. So the gist of this course is about learning how to transcend the ego. Not because the ego is bad, and I talk about that at length, but because the ego is just a made-up set of beliefs that we have taken on and that we now assume to be true, and they create the reality we are experiencing. When we're able to see through the identity and all the self-limiting beliefs we hold, that's when we are able to tap into the divine part of us, the soul, and we're able to get onto our true life path and be divinely guided at all times. One of the things that I've struggled with in my coaching practice is the sense of how am I supposed to, find out what everybody should be doing with their lives. I do often provide readings for my clients from their spiritual guides, but always I've had the sense of, who me, how am I supposed to figure this out? The conclusion that I've now reached is that actually my only responsibility is to support you in your own awakening and your reconnection to your soul, because then all the answers will be provided to you. The biggest shift in the Great Awakening is that we learn to be inner directed. So we stop looking to the outside world for expertise of how we're supposed to be doing things. And instead we start turning to the inner voice and the extraordinary abilities that we have as human and divine beings to tap into the collective consciousness where any information that we might possibly need can be given to us. So instead of agonizing and sitting in the intellect and trying to figure things out, we are divinely guided and able to receive exactly what it is that our client needs. So it's a massive shift, particularly for lawyers, because we obviously come from a profession that is completely fear-based, and this is now a shift to coming from love. And we come from a profession that is very heavily based on the ego and the protection of the ego. And most of the clients' issues that you will deal with throughout your career, regardless of the type of law you're practicing, will stem from the ego. This ability to start seeing through the ego's programs is extraordinary, and that's what awakens us to being able to lawyer from the seat of the soul. In the program, I have created 7 steps to try and help you, but I want to make it clear that this is not a program that you start and finish and suddenly everything becomes clear. It is an awakening process. So there is an energetic exchange that is happening throughout the program. I encourage you to meditate, to journal, and not to try and consume this as an intellectual exercise as you would, for example, for CLE points. This program goes a whole lot deeper than that. I've shared with you stories about my own life to try and make it a bit more interesting and not too dry. And really, it is a multifaceted, multi-dimensional journey. I hope that once you have taken this program, you may want to join the Lightworkers Academy, which is about legal lightworkers who know that they are here to build the next legal system, which is based on higher consciousness. Or maybe you would be ready after this to reach out for your own channeled reading to hear what your guides have to say about your life path and what might be standing in your way. I love to hear from awakening lawyers, so please feel free to reach out to me once you've taken the program, and let's see what magic happens then.